Hey everyone, it's Serotonin here. This is like a really personal, clicked the wrong thing. This is a really personal video for me. Um, and it's really hard to do actually. Um, I used to be a huge fan of The Cult, which is a band from England. They've been around for a long time, since the early 80s. And as I've started to uncover what celebrity is really means and what Hollywood really means, I was looking at these guys under scrutiny because I had to give up a lot of the bands. Didn't have to, but I wanted to give up listening to a lot of the bands that I now know have been directly involved with genuine Satanism, pedophilia, Hollywood, all of this stuff, all of this junk and trash, the whole thing that they're pushing, this pedovorism, this MK Ultra reptilian beings living inside their bodies, like all this creepy, crazy stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you think I'm crazy, this video is not for you. I suggest that you go and check out McAllister TV, aka Linda Paris, and you get yourself familiar with what is going on in Hollywood, in the music industry, and all of it. All the people that make tons of money, who are rarely, the big names and the big whatevers, and the ones that do well in the media, and the celebrities that everybody fawns over, are genuine pieces of crap, and they play in this game and they get involved in all kinds of underhanded, disgusting things. Now, I was a huge fan of these guys until, I would say, the mid to late 90s. This particular the Cult had, I think, like, they did Sonic Temple was their big hit. That was the one that got them a lot of money, and they were sort of set to be the new big deal in the music industry. And for those of you that don't know this, they actually were the ones to bring Guns N' Roses to the table, and Guns N' Roses was actually a supporting band on their tour of the album Electric. And so they did this album, Sonic Temple. It was huge, and then things started to go pretty badly for them, because they were sort of poised to be on the precipice of infamy. And very famously, if you had been paying attention, I'm sure they were never a hugely popular band. But I happen to know that Ian Astbury went into rehab at the time, because he was coping with all the stuff that was going on. And I think that at some point in between this album and the next album, which was self-titled, called The Cult, I know that his father died extremely suddenly of cancer. Now, he lost his mom when he was 17, on his birthday, actually, and she had been battling cancer for many years. They were living in Hamilton previously to that, and they moved to Scotland, and this is where she died. They moved there for her to be with her family. As you can tell, I was hugely emotionally invested into this band, which is why it really hurts, because I was really into music. I was really into celebrity. I was really into all that kind of stuff. And maybe it's not obvious from my videos, but I really was. And I knew who everyone was dating. It was just something that was of interest to me. And it's something that I still notice and recognize. And I watch a lot of Jamie Deluxe videos. He calls it a lot of pedophilia activity happening in Hollywood and in the music industry. And his name is Jamie, Jamie. Deluxe is Dlux, and he is a musician from the States, and he does incredible work bringing to light a lot of this horrific stuff. So it started becoming apparent to me that once I started realizing this is what goes on in the music industry, I started really looking at these guys with a fine-tooth comb and under a microscope, so to speak. And there's a couple of very, very troubling things, and the worst of which is that I have just found a photograph of a Marina Abramovic book on his Instagram page, because when they came out with the album Beyond Good and Evil, I was fairly convinced that they knew exactly what was going on, and that was an album that they released with Atlantic. And that album basically got crushed within the first 2 months of its release, and they were actually on tour, and their tour was cut really early, like in the first couple of weeks, and the album was taken off the air, everything was taken off. And if you listen to the lyrics and each song of those in that album, I can guarantee you there is knowledge, there is foreknowledge, there is an understanding of what goes on in the music industry. They went silent for 7 years after that, and in between their self-titled album The Cult, where he revealed that he had been sexually abused as a youngster, and there was 7 years between that and Beyond Good and Evil. And then when that album got crushed and pulled from its tour, and basically everything just clamped down and sealed in a bottle and shut and thrown away. You can still buy that album, but I don't even know if they're making money off it anymore. It's just probably Atlantic that is. And again, another 7 years exactly until the next album. Now, what was really weird is when they resurfaced after 7 years from Beyond Good and Evil. So this is the album Beyond Good and Evil here. When they resurfaced after this 7 years after this album was basically gagged, everything changed. Suddenly, Ian Astbury is doing all kinds of interviews with magazines. They're not calling him a loser. They're not calling him out. They were basically like blacklisted from the media, especially the British music media hated their guts. They made fun of them at every possible turn. They were an absolute mockery constantly. And it was one of the things that I absolutely adored about them, because I love an underdog. I am an underdog champion, and I thought he was so brave and so handsome and so smart and so purely like amazing. I had idol worship for this man. And when he came back after their hiatus and I heard that next album, I mean, oh my goodness, it got good reviews. It was a travesty. I don't know, he was warbling along. I mean, he's got an incredible voice, but and they've always done different new things. They've never tried to be inside the box that's the other thing I really liked about them and admired about them as a band. But it was what was talked about and what was said in the interviews. I mean, suddenly the production, and they've been working with Bob Rock for years, and this is something I want to get into. I want to get into their producers and who they've been associated with, because I think this is very key. So they'd been working with Bob Rock for years, and they came back with this album, and Bob Rock he's a big deal Canadian producer, so I don't think that he's got his hands clean at all either. He's produced a lot of big names, including Bon Jovi, some of the cleaner acts, but still, like, these people have blood on their hands, I have no doubt, because they have sold out stadiums and they have had careers, and you don't get anything without giving everything. Now, the Cult likes to think that they're, super hardworking and they're, like, doing all this stuff. They're only ever playing, like, House of Blues in Chicago and different places like that. Like, they're like a working band. And they do tours, but they're also a working band and they work hard. But I'm really upset because I'm seeing that they have given up and they've given in, and I'm thinking that he's got a handler now. So he's always been unlucky in love. And I'm hugely into astrology, so I did their charts. This was all last year, when I was in school part-time and had some extra time to kill. And suddenly now he's got this wife. They wed in 2012. He left someone else very suddenly, this Canadian woman who is an actress, a sort of a B level actress in Vancouver or whatever. And he's got all like crazy, declarations of love for this woman. He got a tattoo of her name in Greek on his chest in red ink and all this stuff. And then suddenly he dumps her, and now he's with this Australian chick. And she is getting all kinds of MTV stuff. Like, she's all over these, like, like, stars in their motorcycles and stuff. Oh, and I forgot to mention, too, that Billy Duffy, who's the guitarist for the band, he was actually in an MTV, like, Rock Stars Wives show. So they really like hit the cheese dirt like hardcore when they came back from this Atlantic thing. And I don't know what happened, but I think they were super compromised after that, because I think of all of this is satanic virtue signaling, like all of this stuff, being on MTV. And then I don't know if this woman is a real partner, if this is just a handler situation, because he's been impossible. And producers and everyone, like all kinds of people, have been like really disliking working with him because he speaks his mind and doesn't shut up. And that's what I've always loved about it. But it's breaking my heart even talking about this. And I'm 44 years old. I'm not a teenager anymore, but it hurts to talk about this. In 2000 and whatever it was, I can't even remember because I don't see a date on this, he actually had to publicly apologize after he accidentally said the most logical thing that he's probably said since he did the album Beyond Good and Evil, which was that all lives matter. And then what happened? Literally a few days later, he made a public apology, groveling on his knees. It's ridiculous. Before he had this wife that he's been married to since 2012, there was no way. He was belligerent and frustrating, just the way I love him. Something else about Ian Astbury that you don't know. Maybe you don't know, maybe you do. In the early 90s, he used his own money that he made from the albums Sonic Temple and the previous ones to start and fund a musical gathering where people could go and see all kinds of acts that weren't just specific to musical genres. This predates Lollapalooza and all of them. It was called the Gathering of the Tribes, and it was held in California. Okay, it says right here, October 1990. He spent his own money on that and brought in Soundgarden, Ice-T, Indigo Girls, Queen Latifah, Joan Baez, Steve Jones, Michelle Shocked, Iggy Pop, The Cramps, London Choir Boys, The Mission UK, and Public Enemy. He did this, and the next year, Perry Farrell took that torch and turned it into Lollapalooza. They were never invited back again to any of these festivals until Coachella in 2014. Then, we may as well just do this as well right here. The Cult Free Tibet concert. And this fits in with something else here. The Tibetan Freedom concert in 1999. That was an incredible performance by them. This was run by the Beastie Boys. Previous to that, Ian Astbury had actually traveled alone to Tibet. And he actually shared a producer, which is what we're going to get into next, with the Beastie Boys in the 80s. And so he asked if he could be part of the festival. And it took them months to agree, and they were given the tiniest slot and almost no fanfare whatsoever. It's really sad. But let's go back to Rick Rubin now. So who's Rick Rubin? So first of all, this is Rick Rubin. He produced a number of important early hip-hop and rap groups in the 80s. And because of who he worked with, Run DMC, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Slayer, who else do we have? Andrew Dice Clay, Masters of Reality, Danzig, Slayer, and here we have the Cult. Okay. Because of all that, he then got to work with all these people, including Red Hot Chili Peppers, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Four Horsemen, Mick Jagger, Raging Slab, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Johnny Cash, and Willie Nelson. System of a Down, Donovan, AC/DC, Nine Inch Nails, Lords of Acid, like big, huge bands. Some of these guys you might not have heard of, but this was pretty much my musical library back in the day. Except for the rap, I wasn't super big into rap. And you see, it goes on. Saul Williams, Neil Diamond, Shakira, Audioslave, Dixie Chicks, Justin Timberlake, U2, Linkin Park, Kanye West, Joe Strummer, Limp Bizkit, Mars Volta, Jayhawks, Audio Slave. It goes on and on and on. And Metallica, Jacob Dylan, Pete Yorn, Brandy Carlisle. You'll notice that a lot of these people are connected. Like Linkin Park is really interesting. Audio Slave. What are all these people coming out with? You know, the dude from Linkin Park and the dude from Audio Slave, you know, Chris Cornell and whatever his name is from Linkin Park, because I'm too old to know the names of those people. Everybody thinks it's something to do with Geffen. That's why they went, you know, all red scarf. Well, I think it's Rick Rubin, because wait till you see who Rick Rubin is. And you can see even more of these names. Lady Gaga. Like, this guy knows all of the head honchos. And Jay-Z, of course. He was the guy who did the whole Jay-Z thing. Lana Del Rey. All of these people. So now you know. And you should, if you don't know all this, like, dude has serious connections. And so many of those people are really, really, really freaky and creepy. So let's have a look at Rick Rubin. And doesn't he look like a happy little man? Now let's have a quick look, just for kicks, just for shits and giggles. Pardon my pun. Let's have a little look at Albert Pike. My computer doesn't want to let us see pictures of Albert Pike because my computer loves me. Okay, so there's that disgusting piece of crap. And there's this disgusting piece of crap. They have a look, don't they? I think it's called Satanist. So, Rick Rubin. Who the hell is he? Frederick J. Rubin was born in Long Beach, New York, and grew up in Lido Beach, New York. His father, Michael Mickey, was a shoe wholesaler, and his mother, Linda, a housewife. He is of Jewish descent. While a student at Long Beach High School, he befriended the school's audiovisual department, Steve Freeman, who gave him a few lessons in guitar playing and songwriting. He played in a band with childhood friends Mark Greenhut, Carlos Ferrero, and Joey Ferrante, doing garage and school shows for town friends until Steve, an AV teacher, helped him create a punk band called The Pricks. Their biggest claim to fame was being thrown off the stage at CBGB's after 2 songs for brawling with a heckling audience who were in fact friends of the band, instructed to instigate a confrontation so as to get the show shut down and create a buzz. You see where I'm going with this? Somewhat anecdotally, this story was confirmed in an interview with music journalist Zane Lowe. Although he had no authority in New York City, Rubin's father traveled to Nassau County, New York, to Manhattan wearing his Long Beach Auxiliary Police uniform as he attempted to, quote, shut down the show. Now, this is not at all what I have heard about Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin, father. Oh, here we go. So they're calling him a shoe wholesaler. But this is okay, I'm really bummed now because I cannot find I had information. Now this is so interesting. Look at this dude. I'm sorry, one more time. Albert Pike, Rick Rubin. Albert Pike, Rick Rubin. Okay, you know what? I don't want to really actually spend too much time on this guy because, yeah. Because I just don't want to give these people any more attention. Why don't we have a look at this instead? Do you guys remember 11 Rockets? Well, Rockets rumor. So many years ago, there we go. Oh, here's interesting. Ah, perfect, perfect, perfect. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm so excited I found this. The hip-hop satanic connection. Recently, singer-actress Tiffany Evans caused somewhat of a public stir when she twittered suggesting that Satanism was clandestinely influencing Hollywood hip-hop inner circles. She cried out after hearing Rihanna's Def Jam recording single Russian Roulette. Tiffany sincerely believed that the single was patently satanic and promoted suicide amongst youth. Tiffany's young voice was like a cry in the wilderness. And so here we have a quick look. These are all people who've been produced by Rick Rubin. So, okay. Chris Brown. Oh, yes. Chris Brown was the one who was blamed for Rihanna's almost fatal beating back in the day. Just thought I would mention that. So we'll just go back to here. Okay, so Russell Simmons, the most visible blackhead of Def Jam, was only illusionary and window dressing. The founder of Def Jam, oh, Jeff Dam sounds kind of funny too, is the powerful and mysterious, quote-unquote, enlightened one, Frederick J. Rick Rubin, co-head of Columbia Records. Columbia Records is owned by Chris Brown, Sony, and Rick Rubin is only the tip of an iceberg reading vessels for Lucifer's servant. Okay, I just want to go back here to, hang on a second, Rick Rubin's albums. Discography, production discography. Okay, so the Cult Electric. Okay, this was in 1987. Apparently he was still in college. And so when they went to produce the album, they had to go to his, his dorm room to produce the album. Now, I just wanted to point this out over here because they come up again here. The Cult, The Witch. Now, this song, The Witch, was for the soundtrack Cool World, and it was supposed to be an album that came right after, I think it was Sonic Temple, and it was supposed to be the self-titled album that actually features a horned goat on the front of the album. This being the album. Okay, pretty messed up. And I remember thinking this when I bought it, because I was like, oh yeah, I know these are my guys, they're my favorite band, blah blah. And I was really taken aback when I saw this album cover. So this came out in like 96, I believe it was, or 95. And then if we go back to this was 93. So I can't play the single and the video for this, but if you are a fan and you've seen any of the Cult's videos from the 80s, and then you watch this one, you'll see something very stark and very different. And in fact, this video is sort of meant to look like it's filmed in a swamp, and it features in the video quite heavily a very kind of, I don't know, like Ozarky, pardon the term there, but kind of like, I don't know, she looks a little like, I don't know, that she's supposed to be like a little bit backwoods kind of thing. A very young girl, like an 11, 12-year-old girl. And my husband was making an interesting comment the other day. He's like, it's entirely possible that they filmed their own parts of that video when nobody else was there for the day. And then they brought in the rest of the people. And so there's a young girl who looks about 11 or 12 in the video. And then there's this really slimy, greasy looking fat guy in a suit who's all sweaty and gross. So it's just like there's so much going on there. And the song's called The Witch. And it was meant for that Cool World video, which is like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Cool World, but it's like one of the trashiest movies ever that Brad Pitt did in the early 90s. And it's like cartoon meets real life. It's pretty awful. And to be honest with you, this song is like the best thing about the whole movie. In fact, it's one of the best songs they've ever done. And there was actually a really interesting video of them working with Rick Rubin. I'm going to try and put so much of this stuff in the description box for this video. But there's, I'm going to just see if I can find it. Interview with the Cult and Rick Rubin, which YouTube. And see, yeah, here we go. Dawn of Def Jam. Rick Rubin returns to his NYU dorm room. And so let's have a look. Let's just have a look in these things. Yeah, I'm not finding it right here. Okay, so hang on one sec. Sorry, guys. Oh, wow, no way. Oh, creepy. You know, and this is really interesting. So, the Black Album. This is very, very interesting. Because I do remember, like, Cool Mouse did the Gray album, which was supposed to be the white album mixed with the Black album. And there's rumors that basically Jay-Z and Rick Rubin reached out to them, was like, either we're going to sue you or we're going to help produce this album. So very interesting. Okay, so I'm not finding what I'm looking for, which is kind of the thing these days, unfortunately. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of research that I did like a year ago that I cannot find now. It's like gotten buried or something. But anyway, in the interview, they're back with Rick Rubin. They're so excited. They're going to do another album because they really liked the way the things had gone with Electric, but I guess that they decided to move on and try a different producer. And who's to say what made them move on and try a different producer? But after they finished producing this particular song, which had a very questionable video, they went back to Bob Rock and stayed with Bob Rock forever. Everything they've done since has been with him. So I don't know. All I can say is that, you know, I think it's another case of, you know, the innocent being ignorant and then signing their names onto something that they don't understand at all, and what that is, and who these people are, and how they operate, and what's at stake. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, at this point, you know, the payback has been pretty incredible. Like, I consider them probably one of the better people. I think they're kind of caught up in their own contract, and that's what I'm hoping. And I kind of made this video because I want to reach out, because I'm really disappointed. And they don't know me from a hill of beans. They've never met me. I'm nothing to them. They don't even know I'm here. But it just, I don't know. It's sad. I guess it's hard. It's hard to see people that you held in like a strong light for a long time. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know why it's bothering me so much. I thought they were really rebels. I thought they were really like against the system. I thought they were really free and thoughtful and intelligent, and it turns out that they're just part of the narrative. They're another fish caught in the net of narrative. And they're struggling, I guess, to survive. And, you know, he's got kids. He even had to name one of them Che, like after Che Guevara. Like, that guy. He's responsible for the death of millions. Anyway. I'm going to leave all of the links to everything that I've talked about. And yeah, you know, they're a really very specific band. They're not, you know, they're not everybody's cup of tea. So I don't know how many people are going to care about this video. But I felt like I had to make it. So I want to leave this on a positive note. I want to talk about one of their songs that I think is amazing. And I want to read you the lyrics for it. Okay. You are the sun and I am the flame. You are the blood and I am the same. We are the love that rises again. They are the snake that bites in your veins. We are not chained to the wheel. You are the tear, I have no fear. You are so strange, I feel the same. Sorceress mind, we ride again. We are not chained to the wheel. It's the way that you feel, it's the truth in your eye. You've got the wings upon your back and you can fly. It's the way that you feel, it's the truth in your eye, 'cause you're up against the world and still you rise. You are alive and high in my dreams. You are the stars that mystify me. You are the wolf that frightens the thief. You are the voice that they disbelieve. We are not chained to the wheel. And you are the spark that sets us all free. It's the way that you feel. It's the truth in your eye. You got wings upon your back and you can fly. It's the way that you feel. It's the truth in your eye, because you're up against the world and still you rise. And still you rise. When I first heard that song, I felt hope. Just as I was understanding exactly where we are and what is happening to us, and I heard this song and I felt hope. I felt like there was someone that I cared about in a weird looking up to way when I was younger, you know, so a band that I admired, people, real people in that band that I admired, and that they had made it through the other side and they were not part of this. But then when I see things like this, and I read about his wife and see things like this, when I see people commenting like this, you are an icon. That is so cool. Yeah, that is awesome. You're an icon because you read about spirit cooking. It makes me sad. It makes me upset. And then this. I mean, oh my gosh. This was one of the worst ones I had ever seen. I cannot stand this man. And the funny thing is that suddenly, after all these albums, you know, the last 3 albums when they really changed and I feel like they got roped right back in. Suddenly he could not stop talking about David Bowie. Suddenly David Bowie was his single biggest influence, which is absolute bullshit. Their first band was punk, and Bowie was establishment. Like, he might have thought the whole androgyny thing was cool, but Bowie was a pop star. And you can't lie to me that Ian Astbury wasn't a punk, because he was in a punk band. But now he's got a handler, and I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Anyway. No William S. Burroughs, please. Yeah, this is the guy who admires David Bowie. This is the guy, right? He looks like a massive Bowie fan to me. I don't know about you. Anyway, Godspeed us all. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm so upset. My heart sank when I saw that Marina Abramovich thing. Anyway, I'm starting to talk like I've got some kind of massive audience and that all of you love the cult. That was a hard one. Godspeed, everyone.